Alright, today is going to be a newer kind of video where we're checking out a mod dino, but these are so well made that they might as well belong in the base game. Roll the intro. So let's give a little background on this dino real fast because not many people are very versed on this creature. So, Ledumahadi is a sauropodomorph, which was a transitional stage between the two-legged ancestors of sauropods and their later massive four-legged counterparts. Fossils of these dinos were discovered in and around South Africa, this being one of the first giant sauropodomorphs. Say it with me, everybody. Found weighing in and around 12 tons. The largest difference between it and others of its lineage was that it lacks the column-shaped legs usually associated with animals of that size. Elephants and Paraceratherium being a fairly recent example. The large legs of Brachy or Diplodocus is another good way to look at it for an example of um, column-shaped legs, just these pillars, not necessarily having the curves and more defined leg features that you normally have in, say, a deer or a dog. These being significantly thicker and a lot more straight, a lot more structurally supportive of the animal. Now, with that minor paleontol... Ah! Now, with that minor paleontology lesson out of the way, let's hand this over to Divik, who is our resident paleo-arc historian of the mod development and a friend of the channel. He's been here before, he's here again. He wasn't going to miss out on the paleo-arc. Alright, he wasn't. And I want to try this out, I want to see how this goes. So, here he is again. He's going to tell you a little bit about the development of the mod itself, as a mod, and so you guys can kind of get a little bit of an inside look on what goes on behind the scenes of mod creatures, as well as a little bit on the official side, right? Because they're kind of doing something similar. They're doing it kind of crosses over just a little bit. So here's Divik.
When it came to Ledumahadi, it was my second introduction to prosauropods, if that's the term for it. Phase Plateosaurus being the first. This was a creature made by Jade317 and was meant for scorched earth in the creature votes, but as we all know, Fasolasuchus ended up winning that vote. Uh, but Debs and the crew liked the bad boy so much that they ended up taking it into Paleo Arc Evo Plus, Rulers of the Wasteland. Watching this particular creature get developed was certainly an interesting treat, to say the least. From start to finish, the metal statue-looking base model to what we ultimately got in-game was really, really cool. In fact, here's something cool. If you check out Dark Edge TV's video on Ledumahadi, you can actually see her talk about the development of this creature and whatnot. And the actual model making process and everything, all that fun stuff. I end up directing my own audience to Dark Edge from time to time when it comes to stuff like that, since she actually is developing mod stuff, saddles and all that fun stuff too. So, you know, go check out her video if you want to see that kind of thing. But let's continue here. Now, somewhere down the line, Empyrosaurus, a fantasy Spinosaurid, came on the scene as a rival to Ledumahadi, which I think elevates a lot of stuff in that regard. Now, everything about even the little rivalry between them is really, really cool. But let's focus on Ledo for a second here. Now, the electric glow on the hands and whatnot, when it's charging with energy, the kinetic energy and whatnot that you get from attacks, really cool stuff. And speaking of Empyro, here's a fun fact. That little bit from the trailer of the two fighting each other, yeah, you can spawn that in as an item if you have the command for it. Or if you have awesome Arc tools or Arc Nucleus, You can use those two things to spawn in the item. It's a little box, I think, if I remember properly. You place it down, and it just loops that same battle animation uh, as many times until you pick it up. I want to say, and it is a little difficult to actually pick it up, but if you do have um, a, any kind of mod with a pickup gun, you can just use that to pick up the item again. So if it's causing any issues for you, just pick it right back up, and there you go. Now, Ledumahadi itself is an absolute blast. I use it whenever I can, and it's my go-to big herbivore. If, say, Evo Therizinosaurus is not in the picture, because that or even Evo Bronto is my other picks. But I think Ledu is probably the one that takes the cake the most because, well, it can harvest meat, aka free itself from corpses if the corpse actually lands on it, which is something that I think a lot of creatures should be able to do, and at the very least, and free itself. But that's a whole nother thing, and that's a whole nother video entirely. Ledu moves at a good pace. I can speak, I promise, and is overall just really, really fun. Now, I could say the same thing about the rival Spinosaurid that I mentioned twice here, but that's for another time altogether. We don't have time for that. But trust, Empyrosaurus is really, really cool. You should get some likes in this video so to get Dark to talk about Empyro. But anyways, I've had my fun. I'll see you guys next time, and I'll give you back to old Mr. Dark Tectonics. See you guys next time.
If we pretend for a moment and imagine a perfect world where Ledumahadi is in the base game, it's found in and around all of the desert areas on each map. Anywhere there is a desert, there's probably a Ledumahadi, save for Valguero, where its other variant is found in the chalk cliffs. And given its large size and more rotund belly, it's safe to say that these creatures are designed to store large amounts of food and water, potentially having a very slow metabolism and choosing not to expend large amounts of energy unless necessary. Being a fairly large herbivore and living in an environment filled with so many massive hazards and predators, including one we may visit in another video, it's no wonder that Ledu has the temperament of your drunk father when you break a glass. This herbivore is no slouch when it begins to get moving. Being a lumbering behemoth of a titanic proportion, Ledu will take no time to run you down on foot if you see yourself too close to his personal space. When you or a predator manages to enter the thunder-cracking callous cud's space, and it gets close enough, this creature will throw hands like you just came home with bad grades, throwing a barrage of limbs towards you, battering you down with limbs equipped with thick scale plating and fairly large claws. There are multiple herbivores alive today with similar attitudes, with moose, bison, and elephants coming to mind. Um, this being said, you have so many videos of people just messing around and find out, right? Like, they go up to take a selfie with a moose, you're trampled. Bison, you're launched 15 feet into the air, right? Head butted into the earth. Elephants, oh my god, elephants just absolutely demolish just anything they feel the need to. You don't show up looking for elephants during mating season. You don't because of the male testosterone levels. They'll run through everything. They'll just demo anything that's just hormonal rage. It's insane. Um, and while a lot of media has loved to portray certain prehistoric herbivores as walking meat markets, it's much safer to assume that plenty of these large creatures were more than ready to throw down with the best of them in their time, and would readily do so if it ended up coming to that. Hadrosaurs are often seen as these just lumbering lumps of steak just ready to be eaten, but in all reality, they were just walking muscle. They had massive tails that could probably do significant damage. Think about horses kicking, and now think about something that's 10 times the size of a horse hitting you with all of the force in that muscle of its hind leg. Um, so many different scenarios where we have underestimated prehistoric herbivores beyond our own comprehension, and it's absurd. It's so sad. Um, and that being said, survival is one hell of a drug, and Ledu has been hooked on it since the beginning. This creature in Ark is a walking powerhouse, both metaphorically and literally, as we're about to get into. All right, so with a little help from the creator himself, Depths, he didn't do the model specifically, but he did work on it, and he is also the head honcho of PaleoArk. He does all of the bells and whistles and kind of directs everything. So I guarantee he had a hand in in touching it here and there, consensually, of course. I asked him, I'm like, is there anything I should know about Ledu's electricity? How does it do that? And he told me something kind of interesting. He told me that it generates the electricity through stored kinetic energy in liquids in its arm. And I did a lot of research. That's not scientifically possible. I'm really sorry, Depths, but I managed to kind of make it work, right? So remember, this is a channel of speculative science. None of this has um massive amounts of weight behind it. It's science fiction, correct, right? But that being said, I do try to tie as much as I possibly can to real world science without breaking reality, right? Without completely making something so outlandish that it's completely impossible. So I took my biggest and best jab at this to give us the best chance that we could to bring it the vision the Depths had for this creature to life scientifically. So, one of the most interesting and incredible features of Ledu is its ability to generate electricity through its arms, unleashing massive waves of electromagnetic discharge. This is possible thanks to a liquid within their arms. Large amounts of tiny iron oxide particles, such as magnetite, are collected from the Ledu's diet and then stored within. Stabilized by being coated in lipids, which are the fats of animals or us, like um basically it's fats, right? So you're a little chubby, you got lipids there. It's why it's called liposuction, right? The key word in there, lipo being lipids, right? And these iron oxide particles would be probably most likely coated in lipids to help stabilize them. Um, and then they would be suspended in water or a water like substance within the arms, within Ledu's arms, whether that be, maybe some sort of kind of oilish substance, something like that. Most likely, probably some sort of biological fatty oil. Um, Considering there would be lipids there, not necessarily water, because water would be a very big commodity that Ledu specifically would need to manage, being at the size it is and living in the environment that it does. I would assume it's most likely some sort of uh, fatty oil, right? Um, this altogether creates a bioferrofluid liquid that, when being sloshed around in combat and struck, disrupts the magnetic fields. And given that most grazing animals consume a large amount of copper, it is safe to deduce that Ledu is no exception, because it would be grazing, it would be browsing, it would be doing as many different things as it possibly could to get as many nutrients as it could intake, being such a large herbivore in the environment that it has. The copper must then be excreted somehow from the animal, and it's possible that this is through its arm scales, the very large scoots that you see along the bottom of the arm, as well as the very prominent large scaling on its arms, are most likely being reinforced with copper deposits from Ledu's system, from it excreting them through the arms and it building up behind them as the scales push off and potentially maybe even shed off, right? Um, This then helps generate the electricity from the sloshing goop, and it is built up and released utilizing specialized arm muscles that would rapidly contract, releasing the stored energy through its arm plating. Altogether, this dinosaur is one of the most hardy and capable combatant herbivores you will find within the Arks, housing two mini biological generators, the ability to move both quadrupedally and bipedally, and arm muscles with enough potential to swipe the jaw off a Yudi. There is near no doubt that if these creatures are present during the reseed protocol, that they would thrive in the new and cleansed environment given to them by the survivors' efforts. They are just walking tanks of survival, right? That's all they are. And I imagine that once the elements purged, once everything's better and there's a much more sustainable environment present, that Ledus would have no problem just existing and being found anywhere that they could thrive in. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. This is a longer one, because I wanted to get a lot of history out of the way, a lot of different things. Wanted to kind of expand on the knowledge of Ledu a little bit. Not massive, but just give everybody an idea, right? And just let everybody know about all that. So, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Divik, to helping. Make sure you guys check out his channel. Him and everybody else that was shown up, or that not was shown up, but who was kind of mentioned in this video, Depths, Dark Edge TV. They'll all be linked in the description. Make sure you go and check those out. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Stay hydrated, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.